The cowboy had only seconds to decide. Before sunrise, he cut the heavy chains from the Apache woman's wrists, knowing one wrong move could cost him his life. Everyone expected her to run, seek revenge, or disappear into the wilderness. Instead, she turned to face the man who had set her free and did something that left every witness completely speechless. What happened that morning would change both of their lives forever, and the truth behind her choice was more powerful than anyone could have imagined. The desert was still wrapped in darkness when Jacob Hayes guided his horse through a narrow canyon. The stars were beginning to fade, and the first light of dawn touched the distant cliffs with pale shades of gold. He had planned to reach the trading post before noon, but a faint sound drifting on the morning wind brought him to a stop. It was not the cry of an animal. It was the sound of metal striking stone. Jacob slipped from his saddle and listened again. The sound came from beyond a cluster of large boulders. Keeping one hand near the revolver at his side, he moved quietly through the rocks until the canyon opened into a small clearing. His breath caught. A young Apache woman sat with her back against a weathered cottonwood tree. Thick iron chains bound her wrists and ankles. A heavy iron collar circled her neck, fastened to the tree with another length of chain. Her clothes were torn and covered with dust, but she sat with quiet dignity. She did not beg for help. She did not cry. She simply watched the sunrise. Jacob searched the clearing. No guards. No horses. Only the cold remains of a campfire. Someone had left her there during the night. The woman slowly turned her head toward him. Their eyes met. "You should leave," she said calmly. Jacob frowned. "You speak English. My father wanted me to learn." He stepped closer and examined the locks. "Who did this?" "A group of traders." "They are not traders." "No. They are hunters." Jacob looked around again. "Where are they now?" "They rode into town yesterday to sell stolen horses." "And they left you here alone?" "They believed no one would find me before they returned." Jacob knelt beside the chains. The locks were strong, but the iron had begun to rust. He removed a small hammer and cold chisel from his saddlebag. The woman watched him carefully. "If they return while you are here," she said, "they will kill you." Jacob placed the chisel against the first lock. "Then I had better work quickly." The sharp strike of the hammer echoed through the canyon. Once. Twice. A third blow cracked the old lock apart. The chain fell from her wrists. Jacob moved to the collar around her neck. It took several more heavy strikes before the final lock broke loose and dropped into the sand. The woman slowly stood for the first time. She rubbed her sore wrists but made no move to leave. Jacob picked up the broken chains and tossed them aside. "You are free." She looked down at the shattered iron, then raised her eyes to meet his. Her voice was steady. "No one owns me." Before Jacob could answer, the distant sound of galloping horses echoed through the canyon. The men who had chained her were coming back much sooner than either of them expected. Jacob's eyes locked on the narrow trail leading into the canyon. The sound of hooves grew louder with every passing second. "There are too many of them," the Apache woman said quietly. "You should leave while you still can." Jacob shook his head. "I did not cut your chains so they could put them back on." He quickly led his horse behind a wall of large rocks and motioned for her to follow. They had barely disappeared from sight when 5 riders entered the clearing. The leader spotted the broken chains lying in the sand. His face twisted with anger. Someone was here. Another man climbed down from his horse and examined the ground. Fresh tracks. 2 people. The leader kicked the shattered lock across the dirt. "Spread out. They cannot be far." The riders separated and began searching the canyon. Jacob quietly pulled his rifle from its saddle scabbard. The Apache woman placed a hand on the barrel and gently pushed it down. "If you fire, every man will know where we are. What do you suggest?" She looked toward the steep cliffs above them. "There is an old trail. Few people know it exists." Jacob nodded. "Can we reach it before they find us?" "If we move now." They slipped through a narrow gap between the rocks, climbing carefully toward the hidden path. Loose stones rolled beneath their boots, but the wind carried the sound away. Below them, one of the outlaws suddenly stopped. He looked up. "There," The others turned at once. Jacob grabbed the woman's hand, and together they ran along the rocky ledge as bullets struck the cliff behind them, sending pieces of stone into the air. The trail curved around the mountain, but it ended at the edge of a deep ravine. Jacob stared across the wide gap. There was no bridge, no safe way forward. Behind them, the riders were closing in. Jacob stepped to the edge of the ravine and looked down. A narrow river rushed over jagged rocks far below. The drop was enough to kill anyone who slipped. "There has to be another way," he said. The Apache woman studied the opposite cliff. "There is." She pointed toward the remains of an old pine tree that had fallen across the ravine many years before. Its thick trunk stretched from one side to the other, forming a narrow crossing. "It will not hold a horse," Jacob said. "It does not have to." He quickly untied the saddlebags and took only what they could carry. Then he gave his horse a gentle pat on the neck. "Go." The animal hesitated for a moment before turning and disappearing into the trees. The sound of shouting echoed behind them. The outlaws had reached the end of the trail. "There they are," one of them yelled. Jacob looked at the fallen tree. "I'll go first." He stepped onto the rough trunk, carefully testing each step. The old wood creaked beneath his weight, but it held. When he reached the other side, he turned back. "Come on." The Apache woman took a slow breath and began crossing. She never looked down, keeping her eyes fixed on Jacob. She was only a few steps from safety when a gunshot shattered the morning silence. The bullet struck the tree trunk, sending splinters into the air. The old pine groaned. A loud crack echoed across the ravine. The trunk shifted beneath her feet. Jacob lunged forward and caught her hand just as the tree gave way, breaking loose from the cliff. For one terrifying moment, she hung over the rushing river below, supported only by Jacob's grip. Then another hand reached down from above. It belonged to an elderly Apache warrior. Behind him stood several more warriors, their bows already aimed at the outlaws on the opposite side of the ravine. The elderly Apache warrior tightened his grip on the woman's arm while Jacob pulled with all his strength. Together, they lifted her onto solid ground. She took a deep breath and looked at the old warrior. "Thank you, Elder Nantan." He nodded, relief softening the lines on his weathered face. "We have been searching for you since yesterday." Across the ravine, the outlaws gathered at the broken edge of the cliff. Their leader cursed as he realized the crossing had collapsed. He raised his rifle and fired another shot. The bullet struck a rock near Jacob's feet. Before he could fire again, several Apache warriors drew their bows. The leader looked at the arrows pointed directly at him and slowly lowered his rifle. Elder Nantan stepped forward. "You have stolen horses, attacked travelers, and chained one of our people. Leave now, and you may keep your lives." The outlaw laughed bitterly. "You think this is over? It is over if you choose wisely." For a long moment, neither side moved. Finally, the outlaw spat into the dirt. "This is not finished." He signaled his men, and they turned their horses back toward the canyon, disappearing one by one. Only after they were gone did the warriors lower their bows. Elder Nantan turned to Jacob. "You could have ridden away when you found her." Jacob looked at the woman beside him. No decent person would leave someone in chains. The elder studied him in silence before giving a respectful nod. "You risked your life for a stranger. Among our people, that creates a debt of honor." The woman smiled for the first time since Jacob had found her. "My name is Tala," she said softly. "You gave me my freedom this morning." She looked toward the distant mountains. "Now let me show you why those men were willing to kill to keep me from reaching my people." As the sun settled over the mountains, the Apache warriors escorted Jacob and Tala to a peaceful camp hidden among towering pines. Families gathered to welcome Tala home, their relief clear in every smile and embrace. Elder Nantan stepped before the tribe and raised his hand for silence. Today, this cowboy could have turned away. Instead, he chose compassion over fear and honor over safety. The camp grew quiet as every eye turned toward Jacob. Tala walked beside him. "This man did more than break iron chains," she said. "He reminded me that freedom begins in the heart. No one can truly own another person." The elder nodded. "Your father believed the same. His words live on through you. Jacob smiled modestly. I only did what I hoped someone would do for my own family. As the evening fire crackled beneath the darkening sky, Tala looked at the broken pieces of chain that had been carried back from the canyon. They will never hold anyone again. The tribe melted the iron and reshaped it into a simple bell that hung at the entrance to the camp. From that day forward, every traveler who heard its gentle sound remembered one truth. Freedom is never a gift that belongs to one person. It is a right that belongs to everyone willing to protect it. If this story reminded you that true courage is not measured by strength, but by the choice to stand up for someone who cannot defend themselves, then its message has reached the right place. Jacob risked everything to free a stranger, and Tala proved that no chain is stronger than the human spirit. Thank you for watching this Western frontier story. If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video and subscribe for more original stories filled with courage, honor, sacrifice, unexpected friendships, and unforgettable moments from the American frontier. Tell us in the comments, if you had found Tala in chains that morning, would you have risked your own life to set her free? Share this story with someone who believes that kindness can change a life. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure from the Old West. Until next time, thank you for watching, and may the spirit of courage and compassion always guide your path.